Hello, I'm back for a second stream the same day. Like an hour or two later, I don't know. I was trying to get back as quick as I could, but it took a while to prepare my dinner and eat that, and then I was realizing, as I was mentally preparing for this second stream, that I talked about the pile of books that I had that were all but done except for the cover being put on. And I was thinking to start on those, which I still kind of am, but I was realizing there's a few steps away. I am a few steps away from being able to tackle those because I need some book boards prepared. And I thought I had some. I think I do. I just don't know where they are. If I could locate those, I could jump straight into doing the covers, but I don't have a clue where I put them. So I'm gonna have to make some more covers, book boards. And so I haven't fully decided, but the last book that I finished on stream, I did a double thick board, which I had never done before. So I double plied my book board, put two together, sandwiched together, and it was kind of necessary in my opinion for that book that I was working on, because it was a very large book that I wanted to have significant structure to it. But these smaller ones, like take this one for example, it's only like 2 inches by 3 inches wide. I mean tall, whatever. It doesn't need a double thick book board by any means, and most of my books are pretty small. So I think that double thick was a one-time thing, not something that I'll probably do most of the time, but I do need pretty stiff boards. Like I don't want there to be any flex in it, at least very minimal flex. So what I typically use is these, which are the middle cutouts of mat boards. So say you go to a framing shop to get an art or a photo framed, they'll often put this mat board around the edge of it. These ones are white, but you can get them in colors too. I like the white ones because I know they don't have any kind of coating on one side, so they should be relatively equal. That's one of the keys to use for book boards. You need it to have very consistent texture and rigidity to both sides. Like if it doesn't lay flat and it's naturally curved, you're gonna have problems with it. You want it to be very consistent, because you don't want your cover of your book to be, curved, or bowing, Boeing 747. So yeah, these work pretty well. They're not necessarily 100% ideal. They're not strong enough, in my opinion. They're pretty stiff. I can't easily bend them. But what I like to do to make them even stronger is to glue another piece of paper on both sides of them, which also hopefully makes both sides a little bit more consistent. But I basically hand pick boards that are as consistent on both sides as possible, although there's a little bit of curve. Like if you look at the end of these, you can see this one's curving out a little bit, and then there looks like there's a little bit of bowing out this way, just a little bit. So these aren't 100% perfect, but they'll work. This is more typically what a lot of people use for book boards, is what's called chipboard. It's like brown, and you can get different thicknesses, and that's fine too. If I used that, I would almost definitely double ply it because it's pretty flimsy and absorbent, which isn't really what I like to use. These are a lot more dense and stiff. I still like to reinforce them though. But then there's other mat boards that have like some kind of surface treatment on one side, like a color or something. Like this one, for example, it may not show up. Oh shoot, my green screen is step. Let me fix that real quick. And I'm over too far now. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. So this has like something that's like a fabric glued on top of the board. You might be able to see the weaves in here. I wouldn't want to use this for a bookboard, probably. I mean, I might experiment. It might work fine. But that means one side has a different treatment than the other side. The back side doesn't have that fabric on it. So when I start gluing stuff, it might warp in one way or the other because it's not equal. So I try to use boards that have similar texture on both sides. Similar rigidity, I guess. Because basically what glue does, when you put glue on something, it weakens that side. It makes it less, I can't think of the word. Like the fibers are less constricted, and when the fibers are dry, they're just flat. But when you get them wet, basically they expand. So the fibers on this side will expand out this way, which makes the board curve this way, like that. So if I get this side wet, the board will curve like this. It'll arch out that way. If I get this side wet, it'll do the opposite. It'll curve this way. And so you always want to do equal treatments to either side. So if you glue this side, you probably want to glue this side also. Otherwise, it's going to not be flat. And that's why I like to put the sheets of paper on either side to reinforce it. So I'm putting glue and a piece of paper on this side and glue on it and a piece of paper on this side. So I'm doing equal things both sides, and that's kind of the key. If you have a thick enough board, like if it's really thick, then it's not going to warp as much, obviously, and you don't have to worry too much about being equal to both sides of the board. So let's see. I think I'll use this stack to start. And this is a paper that I typically use for reinforcing the sides. It has kind of a natural grain to it. It's pretty strong, stiff paper. It's not like watercolor paper. It's maybe probably 60 or 70 pounds as they rate paper here in the US, which is confusing, of course. I don't know what that is in GSM, grams per square meter. I'm not really fully familiar with how those conversions work. Anyway, that's what I use, but it's so big I need to cut it down to about this size. Let's see, how many of these do I have? 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So need 32 sheets, one for each side. If I wanted to make them super stiff, I would put 2 sheets on either side, but usually one is enough. Sometimes it's an experiment too, like if I glue the sheets to both sides and then after that I just can't get the board to be straight and it's like curved or bowing in one direction, then I kind of treat it as a reject. Like there's a certain amount of, if it's bowed one way, you can bend it the opposite way with your hands and hope that it stays, but generally if it's bowing, it's gonna cause you problems. So when they're drying, I do put them under heavy weights. So I have some granite countertop pieces that I got for free off Craigslist, and those work great for putting weight on things because they're perfectly flat and they're super heavy. So it's nice to get a few of those if you're into this stuff. They make great tools. So as I mentioned in my title and a little bit earlier, I got this paper trimmer that I've never used. I do so much cutting of paper. I typically use a straight edge like this one or a bigger one, and then my trusty utility knife. And that's how I cut most things, but it kind of wears on your hands pushing, and this can slide all over the place and do a miscut. It's fine, I'm used to that, but I decided to buy a paper trimmer with a roller on it and just try that out. I've had them in the past. Actually, I had a guillotine style cutter. I've never had one of these rolling ones, but I got rid of that years ago, and so I bought a new roller, and let's see how it works. I'm going to unbox it. I've actually never used it. There's lots of brands of these. I don't have a clue. I wouldn't want to try to recommend one. I just bought this one because it had good ratings, and it's definitely not the cheapest one, but I thought it would serve me for a long time, not just be a cheapy one that doesn't last. So I think it was like a little over $100. You can get them for like 20 bucks though. Usually those cheap ones are made out of plastic though, and I just wasn't confident that they would last. So I got a little bit better one. Hopefully it'll be good. Try not to knock my drink over on the right. Might have to just put this on the floor while I'm pulling it out. I'm not really into these official unboxings, so pardon me if I don't follow the protocol that you're supposed to, but do it as close as I can, I guess. If you really want the full experience, this was on top of there, padding it, so actually that's kind of a cool padding structure. So part of the reason this one is more expensive is because it's quite a bit larger than the cheap ones. The cheap ones are typically made to cut like 9x12 paper or something like that. And this one can cut, I don't remember, like 18 inches or something. Of course you can get even bigger ones. I wanted to get one that it could actually fit on my desk. I could have got a slightly bigger one, but I think this will be a good size. I have paper that's bigger than this, so I won't be able to cut everything with this. Oh, the brand is Carl, so I think I'm going to call this thing Carl. I thought about putting Carl in my stream title, but I don't know, titles sometimes get too long when I have several things going on. I don't think I need to really read any of this. I might keep this just in case I need it, but I usually don't use instruction things when I get something. Usually it's just kind of super obvious. It doesn't really need any explanation. Well, that's cool. So it's cool kind of and not necessarily cool otherwise. First of all, you can move this a little bit side to side, which means it's not guaranteed to be straight. You have to intentionally line it up with the grid on the bed of this thing. It's magnet placement though, so that's kind of cool. There's these magnets on the bottom. It stays in place pretty strong, but you still would want to hold it while you're lining something up to make sure it's in the right spot probably. It'd be kind of nice to have a tightener on the end just to really make sure it's in place, but I guess maybe I'll find that magnet method is strong enough to keep it where I want it. If so, then congrats on the good design that they did, but I'll have to try it out and see how it works. So ideally I would have this vertically like this on my desk. But I have so much stuff stacked up here that I normally would have space for it, but I don't currently. So I think I'm gonna just put it upside down like this so that the cutting trimmer is down on the bottom, and then I can just slide the paper in from the top. So that will be sufficient. Eventually I can clear more space on my desk so I can use it a little bit better, I guess. I'm assuming the blade is pre-installed. It did come with a couple replacement blades, or I think I might have ordered those. I don't remember if I ordered these or if it came with them. They were not inside this box, they were inside the larger packaging box. And that's what was showing on the stream title screen, as well as the little replacement blade. So for this large paper, I'm not going to need this because it's going to be so big. I don't even know if it'll fit in here, to be honest. Might be just slightly too big for this, which would be ironic, spending all this time talking about it and then I can't even use it. For this paper, it looks like it might be too... the paper might be too big for this. It's kind of cool, this neon thing. It looks like it's glowing, like it has an LED in it, but it's just the light reflecting off the edges. So yeah, I have about 18 inches. This looks too big. I can't tell until I pull it up here, but it looks like it's going to be just a little bit too big, maybe. Oh, wow, we're in luck. If that's... Okay, so let's figure out how this works. I think you're supposed to put the paper underneath that thing, but it's really tight. It's weird. Ah, there we go. That lifts the whole thing. This is where a manual could come in handy, but I figure it's probably not too hard to just figure out on the fly. Okay, so before I do any cutting, I need to figure out what dimensions I'm cutting. So these are those boards that I'm going to cut sheets for, so see how big they are. Guess I can use the measurements on this thing. Looks like it's 10 by... by 10. So these are 8 by 10s. So they were from mat boards where people were cutting out an 8 by 10 hole in the mat board, which makes sense. So yeah, 8 by 10. I need 32 8 by 10s. So let's see how many cuts I can get out of this. It's vitally important to know the paper grain direction, so let me see. Not only the grain of the paper, but the grain of these boards. So every fibrous paper product pretty much has a grain direction, so unfortunately, I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, but normally I would expect the grain direction to go the length of the board, but in this case it's going this way, and how you can tell is which way it bends more easily. So I can easily bend it this way, but it's a lot more stiff this direction, so that means the grain is going across the width. And each board might be different, so I need to check them all. That one's the same. The same. So far, all of these are going short direction. Should get this paper out of here so I don't bend it up. Yeah, it looks like all of these are the same. They probably came out of a batch. So I get these from an art supply store that has an attached frame shop, and they try to sell these, basically the waste product of their framing process. They're like 25 cents each, which, depending on the size of the book I'm doing, like a book like this, I can get quite a few out of each of these, but a bigger book might use the whole thing. Yeah, all of these are grain going the short direction. So that means that I want to also cut the paper so that the grain direction of the paper is the same. So instead of 8 by 10, it's like 10 by 8, essentially. So first of all, let's figure out what the grain direction is on this. This might be the long way. So same thing, you just see which way it folds easier. I mean, you don't need to fold it, but just kind of push on it and see how much it resists. And then the other direction, try that. I feel like there's more resistance this way, so that means the grain direction is going the length of the paper. You can also sometimes see it, like if you get the light, you know, right at the edge and shining down, you'll see like lines in the paper sometimes. So yeah, this is very clearly that the grain is going this way because it's easier to bend that way. So that means, to give a visual on that, so the grain on the paper is going vertically this way, and the grain on these is going this way. So that means I'm going to cut it here. And unfortunately, as you can see, I don't have enough width here to do 2 of these. So this paper is not sized ideally for these boards. If the grain direction of these boards was going the length, then I could get 2 going this way, which is kind of unfortunate when that kind of thing happens. I actually have this paper in twice this size. I cut this down to this size to be more manageable, but I think my original sheets are twice this size. And that double size might actually work better for these particular boards, but I think I'll just have some excess that won't be used, but I'll keep those trimmings because I can use those for other projects. So that tells me I need to cut 10 inches this way and 8 inches this way. So that, since I have to do this direction first, I'm going to cut 8 inches as many times as I can until I run out of paper here. So this goes under there. This is going to be kind of confusing, actually. I think what I'm going to do is put the marks on there so I know where I'm going to cut. I'm really nervous about my drink over here. I'm going to knock it over. So. Okay. So yeah, this is kind of difficult with my cramped space here. So I'm going to put a mark every 8 inches here. This actually right now the trimmer is in my way, so I'm going to get out of the way while I do this. Don't remember how many sheets I can cut at a time. I guess I could look at the manual and see what it says. It says can cut 36 sheets at once, but that's like office paper, and this is probably 3 times the thickness, so maybe around 10 sheets, but I probably won't do that many at a time. I guess I need to figure out how many I can get out of each of these. That'll determine how many I need to cut. I need a pencil. A little bit more light while I'm doing this. That's crazy. I can only get 2 sheets out of each of these. That's terrible. Makes it tempting to go get my larger sheets so that they can work better with the dimensions of these boards, but I don't know. That would mean I would need to cut 16 sheets because I only get 2 out of each. That's fine. I'll just go with it. Maybe cut 8 at a time. The first 8. I'll make the marks on another page for the second group. Alright, now I'm ready to cut, I think. This isn't necessarily saving any time. Like, I could use my straight edge and cut them with my knife, and it's not necessarily about saving time. It's hopefully, once I get used to this thing, I'll have more accurate cuts and consistent cuts and things like that, and then it'll save my hand too. It honestly takes quite a bit of stress on my hand to hold, you know, the long rulers. I have to spread my hand out really far and push really hard, and stresses my hand quite a bit. Alright, here we go. Let's see how this works. The other thing is, how accurate is this thing? Don't really know. So the 8 mark is, I guess I can put something to mark that spot. 8's about right there. That's where I want to line up my little marks that I made. And push all these against that side so they're nice and flush. Oh, wait a minute. What am I thinking here? Let me see where the blade is. So that's 0 to 8. So I guess I need to push this down to the next mark. That's weird. Guess that makes sense. I don't know. I haven't used a paper cutter in so long. Confusing me for some reason. This doesn't look lined up at all. That's weird. I guess these sheets are not the same size. So go to the next marker, I guess. Just right there. Put that on the grid. So many things in my way on my desk, it's ridiculous. Not ideal conditions here for doing this step. Okay, now we should be good. And put this down to clamp it in place. I actually kind of like that mechanism. If it proves to work, I don't know. And then just cut it. Hopefully the blade is installed. Yep. Cut right through them all very nicely. Like it. Let's check to see how straight this is. I might not have aligned it right with the line on the 8 there, because it's off just maybe a 1/16 of an inch or something, but that I'm probably guessing that's my fault for not. I mean, this is a little bit awkward. The lines are underneath the paper, so I can't really tell where I put it, but let's lift this up. See if that's the case. Otherwise, if it's not the case, then that means the markings on this are a little bit off. Yeah, it's hard to say. I'll have to do some more test cuts, but the markings on this cutter might be a little bit off. Have to get used to where the blade sits on this. That's often the case with paper cutters, though. It's really annoying that they don't calculate all that when they manufacture it. Like, they start the measurements maybe at the edge of this this board instead of where the blade actually cuts. But you can just get used to that little offset and it's not a big deal. Okay, so now let's do this the opposite way. Flip it over this way. Now I can see where the edge is. Let's do a quick test of accuracy of this thing. Of course, these papers aren't perfectly aligned with each other. I have it pretty much right on the 8-inch marker, I think. Looks pretty close. Let's try it. See how off the measurements are. That is nice though. It's so much easier than holding the ruler and cutting with my utility knife. I do like it, even if it's a little bit inaccurate. Find out in a second. I think I had that pretty lined up to the grid, so now we'll see how big this is. It's pretty close. Let's see if it's square. Okay, this time it's a little bit short. I don't know. I'll have to like get it to the point where I can stand over the top of it, because I'm viewing it at a massive angle and it's hard for me to see where the grid lines are, honestly. And for this application that I'm using it for, the measurements don't need to be exact at all. It's not important. But for other applications, the measurements would be more important. So, but this is fine for what I'm doing. So now I need to cut 10 inches the other direction. We'll cut the next group first, I guess. I think most of what I'm experiencing here is user error. I'm just not lining it with the grid perfectly. I have to get used to that. Covering up the grid lines with my paper makes it more challenging. But as long as it's in the ballpark for this particular project, it doesn't really need to be exact. I feel like it's all user error. And some of it's just my brain isn't working because it's late at night. I'm like, I probably measured it wrong or something. Which I've been known to do. Okay. Overall, though, I think this paper cutter will work out just fine. Okay, now, let's see. Everything's opposite. I'm like having a hard time. Maybe because it's upside down. I don't know. I think overall, once I get used to this thing, it'll actually save time as well as saving my hand. I'm just fumbling with it because I don't know what I'm doing. always like that when I try something new. I've actually never used this kind of paper cutter exactly. So here's all my 8-inch cuts. Now I need to do a 10-inch cut going this way. So I'll do maybe 10 sheets at a time or so. This is totally frying my brain though. It feels so backwards. So I put this under here, and then if I put this on the 10-inch mark, it feels, I guess it makes sense. It just feels backwards for some reason. For some reason I was thinking what I cut out here is the part that it would be measuring, but it doesn't know how much is back there. So this is the part, obviously, that'll be 10 inches. I have some form of dyslexia that creeps up on some of this stuff, so I have to like force myself to think in reverse or something. Okay, that's in place, and then this trimming is not important. It'll be some random size, but I can definitely still use those, so I'll set those aside. So here's my 8x10s. Alright, I think I'll eventually get used to this thing. See how close to 10 inches that is. The reason I think the little bit that it's off is user error is because sometimes it's more than the measurement, sometimes it's less. So if it's, I feel like it should be consistent with itself. I don't think the blade can wiggle back and forth. It's staying in position. So it must be me that's introducing that variable. I'm just not sure what I'm doing exactly. See, this one's just a little bit short of the 10 inches. It's like 1/16 of an inch or something. But some of the others I was doing, it was like a little bit longer, so I don't know what that's all about. Again, for this particular use case, it doesn't need to be exact. Okay, get another stack of 10, 11. Guess if I stacked them against that edge, that's the edge that I should put on the cutting line. Or not the cutting line, the measuring line, whatever. The other thing is, see how thick these lines are? That's what I don't like about some of these things is I'd rather have them be very precise, thin lines. So like this line is going here and this line are thin, and then every other one is thick. I know why they do that, so you can see the inches versus half inches, but I'd rather all the lines be thin because, you know, it depends on which side of the black huge line that you put your paper. So maybe I should put it on the far end to make it a little bit longer in the cut. curious to see how that measures out with that. Putting on the back side of the line. I would think like ideal would be in the exact center of the fat lines on the grid, but who knows how they'd design it. This one's almost exactly 10 inches, so maybe that's what I should do in the future. Put the paper on the very back of the thick lines. It's not very intuitive. Whatever, that's fine. It works. Okay, assuming that I did everything right, the paper grain direction should be going this way. Let's double check that, because you never know. I might have messed it up. Been known to do stupider things. So see, I mean, you probably can't really see this. You definitely can't feel it, but I'm pushing with a fair amount of force, and it's resisting me quite a bit. I guess maybe you can see it better this way. Resisting quite a bit, but when I do it this way, it just bends super easy. So that means the grain is going this way. So I did cut them correctly. That's good news. And then as far as these leftovers, figure out the grain going this way. So I like to put a little arrow on there with pencil just to remind myself. I can always check it later, but that just gives me a clue. Alright, so if I counted right, I should have 32 of these. I usually skip the songs that have lyrics in them because I've found that when I repost my videos to YouTube, they're more likely to get copyright claimed. None of these the songs I'm using should be copyright claimed because they're free to use in streaming and YouTube videos and whatever you want, according to the site that I got them from. But just YouTube is, as I've mentioned before, is very messed up. I've had it claim, like I had it claim one of these like a week ago or something, a few days ago. It claimed one of these video game songs that's a remix and free to use in streaming, but what it said it was like a Spanish happy birthday song. So you have a retro video game remix and it identifies it as a Spanish happy birthday melody, and that person that was sent that link claimed it. So it's so irritating how garbage the copyright claim stuff is on YouTube. I still post there just because that's kind of the de facto place where everybody posts their videos, but I'm more interested in seeing what happens here on Odysee. This is going to be my primary posting place, and then I just do that as a backup, I guess. Okay. figure out what the paper grain direction is on these. Looks like it's that way. Yeah. Imagine, like this song, it's like from Contra NES remix. Something like this was identified as Happy Birthday. It's like, what? So stupid. Hate it. Makes me angry. Well, not really angry, it's just irritating that they're trying to so hard to help the publishers, and yet they're actually just harming their own creators, and they're not even doing it legally. I don't know if there's a law against false copyright claims, but there should be. I could sue them, but I'm not going to spend all that time and energy and emotions to do that. Like, no. Got better things to do. And I'm kind of afraid to challenge the copyright claims on YouTube because the person that did the claim is doing it dishonestly already, so you know they're a dishonest person or company, publisher, whatever, or they're just lazy. They just push claim on everything that comes into their little system. But either way, they're not super legit or honest. So they could like just get into a stupid mood and do a copyright strike instead of a claim, and that can take down your entire channel. So it's so messed up. So I just figure it's not worth fighting. I usually mute the audio during the time of the song just to get rid of their claim. It seems to be the best way to do it, but it's annoying that you have to do that. Okay. I'm just going to assume I have 32 of these, and I have some glue pre-mixed here. So the kind of glue I use to do double plying or large surface areas like this, you know, when I have a big surface I need to glue, I don't want to use a tiny brush like this, because imagine like brushing glue on, like by the time I get over here this is going to be dry and I would never be able to cover the whole thing. So I use a bigger brush. First of all, it should be here somewhere. I just saw it earlier, but I was pushing everything away to get room for the cutting board, or the paper trimmer. There it is. So here's my bigger brush. I can go a lot faster. But also, instead of using straight PVA glue, which is what I use for most other parts of bookbinding, and I've mentioned this before, I use a mixture of PVA and Methylcellulose Paste, which is this clear stuff here. And this stuff makes the glue more wet, essentially, so it doesn't dry as fast, and that gives me more time to brush on the entire surface. So I do about 50-50 or 60-40 more PVA than Methylcellulose, but just kind of not that important. Just mix it in here, and this is my little batch that I have, and once this is gone I'll mix some more. And it does separate if you have it sitting there for any length of time, so I like to get a popsicle stick or something to mix it. But like you can see how runny it is. Maybe you can't. I guess I should zoom in now that I'm not doing the big paper cutting. I don't know if you can see, but it actually is dripping off not like water, but it's definitely runnier than the PVA by itself, which just makes it not dry as quickly. So I need some paste sheets. I need to glue this whole surface here. I don't want it getting all over my cutting board. Sure if that's enough, but it'll give me a start anyway. Probably not 32 here, but I don't think I'll do all 32 anyway, or 16, whatever. And the challenge is once I have all these glue sheets, paste papers, whatever you want to call them, with glue all over them, I have to like spread them out all over the floor and shelves. Be nice to have a really shallow rack that I, just mini racks that I could just lay these out on. Do not have anything like that. Even with this big brush, it starts to dry on the first part you brush, so you have to kind of make sure to go over the earlier parts again sometimes. I have this roller that I like to use for this kind of stuff, just to make sure it gets flattened down everywhere. It's a really soft, squishy roller, so it works pretty good for this kind of thing. And I try not to spend too much time doing this because the longer I wait, the less even the stretchy attributes of the sides will be. So I want to flip it over and put the other one on here as quick as possible and then get it underweight so that both sides are treated as equally as possible, as close to the time as possible. Of course, I'm not going to put exactly the same amount of glue consistently, and that, honestly, even though that sounds crazy, that could be part of the reason why it might warp one way if it has more glue on one side than the other. But it's pretty hard to control that kind of thing doing it by hand, so I just live with it if that happens, or discard it if it's too curved. Getting late at night, so I need to make sure I don't glue both of these to the same side. I need to make sure I flip it over and glue it to the side that doesn't have paper on it already. I think I've done that before. It's not just the paper adding to either side that stiffens this, it's also the glue itself. When the glue is wet, obviously it'll weaken and soften the bookboard or the mat board. But once it's dry, glue, you know, it's like a starch, it kind of hardens a little bit, almost like a very thin film of plastic. So it strengthens the board a little bit that way, in addition to the paper thickness that's added. So this is bowing a little bit. It's not perfectly flat, but I will put it under pressure and hopefully that will even it out over a day or two. If not, we'll deal with it at that point. So here's one of the pieces of granite or marble, I don't know, granite I guess, countertop that I use to flatten things. I have two of them. Just put one on the bottom, one on the top. It keeps everything flat, puts a lot of weight on it. Be right back. I need to get some felt. I have these strips of, or sheets of felt that I use that kind of evens out the pressure, so I put one on either side of the things that I'm pressing. I have them pre-cut just so that it's quick and easy to use them. So yeah, you can see this board is curving quite a bit. It may be that the sides of it are not equally treated or something is inconsistent about the board, so I don't know if even drying this overnight under pressure will even that out. It might be kind of screwed. I had that problem with one that I recently did, and if that's the case, I may try gluing two of these boards together for a double thick. That might even it out, but we'll see. Okay, next. Just not going very smoothly. I don't have things set up properly for this. Kind of frantically responding to what's going on. Always nice to do a little bit of prep work so it's not as stressful when you're doing it. Have all your tools kind of ready. If I could glue both of these sheets onto both sides of the boards at the same time, I think that would be better. This time does seem to play a role. Like, not only do you want to apply the same kind of moisture or any kind of treatment to either side at the same time. I mean, to either side, but if you do them at the same time, it'll seem to have less warpage. So once it's already started to warp and you apply a paper to it, it might be gluing it to something that already isn't flat. So yeah, it's just complicated stuff. But I don't have any way to glue both at the same time anyway, so it's kind of a irrelevant point. You'd have to have some gigantic machine that would apply the glue to both sides and then roll it through some paper and cut it or whatever. And then you wouldn't have a handmade book, so there's pros and cons to handmade stuff. Sometimes machines do things better than people can do, but it's a fun hobby. I don't really care if it's better. It is better in most ways, but I'm not going to pretend that everything handmade is better than machine made. That's just simply not true, especially things that need to be really exactly measured, like CNC kind of stuff. It would be pretty hard for a person to hand make something like that and compete. He'd still be using tools like lathes and other kinds of things. Can't carve metal by hand. Already running out of space to put these wet glue paste sheet things. You can't put them on top of each other, otherwise they'll stick together and you won't be able to use them more than once, so you have to have space to lay them out flat. Getting low on glue, or a mix of PVA and methylcellulose, so I can only do one more, but I might just mix some more after this so I don't panic in the middle of the next one if I run out. I have to think a lot of advanced things like that. Time is of the essence on a lot of this stuff, so you can't stop midstream and go do something. You have to finish your task. Thought about experimenting with the grain direction thing. Everybody always says to make the grain direction of everything you do in the book go parallel to the spine of your book. And I believe I've generally accepted that, not just because people say, but I've experienced some of the reasons why that would be important. But there might be cases for breaking that rule, or doing it perpendicular instead of parallel. And like, for example, like the grain direction of the spine and your book board probably should align, but maybe I could make the paper the opposite way, and it might reinforce the board in some kind of more two-dimensional way. And I've thought about experimenting with that. I think I might have tried it once, but yeah, anyway, it's good to try things, not just take for granted everything that you hear. So then you have a deeper appreciation of why people say it anyway, if you experience the problems that it causes if you don't do it the right way. Okay, time to make some more glue. I might also go wash this brush out after I make this glue. Another use of these sticks. I find they work pretty well just to kind of grab this glue. I can either pour it. Actually, in this case, I think I'll pour it. Should be mixed well enough. I can also use the popsicle stick, kind of like a spatula, to pull it out of there. Definitely running short on methylcellulose paste, so I'll have to make some more. And hopefully this might be the end of this bottle of glue, because I've been wanting it to empty out so I can either wash it or switch to a smaller bottle like I've been talking about. Probably pretty empty. I'll leave it upside down so more can drain out. The other annoying thing is if you have this methylcellulose paste sitting around too long, it can grow a little bit of mold in it, and then you have to throw it out and make a new batch. It's possible there's a little bit of mold in here. It's hard to tell sometimes. Just there's like a misty stuff in there that you can see, and that could be mold. I'm not 100% sure, but it should be fine for this batch, and then I'll mix up some more. So to make the methylcellulose paste, you start from a powder. Methylcellulose comes in a powder form, and then you just add distilled water to it. Probably the ratio in this batch, maybe not as heavily PVA as it should be, but it'll work. I'll cover this up, and actually what I probably should have done is use the rest of this so I could clean out this shot glass, because it doesn't get cleaned out very often. I'll do that next time, if I remember. I'm going to cover this up and go wash out my brush and be back and see how many boards I can glue before I run out of this. And that'll be the end of the stream. Probably won't have enough glue to do all 32 sheets. Bought this cat dematter comb thing, or cat comb, I don't know what it's called. It's made for brushing out your cat's hair, and because it makes a nice cleaner for these brushes to get all the glue particles out of there that I can't really get out from just rinsing it with water. Kind of see the glue particles up here. It gets them out pretty well. Sometimes, like on my smaller brush, it's a little bit hard to use this big thing on the small brush, so I'll actually use the awl that I use for poking holes. It's called an awl, AWL. Let's use that to clean the glue out in between individual bristles. Works pretty well. Takes a while, but it's kind of a relaxing thing to do if you're just sitting around. But for this bigger brush, I think this cat comb works sufficiently. Okay, so ready to do some more gluing. Never totally ready to do gluing. It's kind of one of those slightly stressful things. You have to be really prepared mentally to do it. It's not that stressful to glue things, but it's more stressful than like cutting paper or sewing the signatures together. Just because it's more time sensitive, you can't just take your time. You have to keep it a fast pace and try not to drop anything, because if you drop this paper that has a bunch of glue on it, it'll make a huge mess. Just little things like that. Even just the way I'm holding the paper as I'm gluing it is important. Obviously, put your fingers where there is no glue yet, and then once you're mostly covered and don't have any place to hold it anymore, then I usually put my fingernail down, so this way to hold it. Because if you get glue on your fingernail, it's a little bit easier to get off than if it's on your skin. Plus, you don't contact as large of a surface area with your fingernail, because it's rigid and doesn't squish down, and you know what I mean. Then I just kind of go over that little spot where my fingernail was, and that's it. And then when I pick it up, I'm actually gripping it with my fingernails so that I don't get too much glue on my fingers. And I do the same with this hand, grip it with my fingernails, and then get it in place. And I always push out from the center to make sure that no wrinkles or bubbles have a chance to form anywhere. I get the cheapest brushes I can. Like, I'm pretty sure these brushes only cost me $1 or less. Just very inexpensive, cheap, China-made, junky brushes. I'm not painting in acrylic or oil painting. I'm just brushing on glue. Something that's soft and either natural fiber, natural hair, or synthetics are fine too. Just something that's really soft tends to work good with glue. You don't want it to be like super bristly and wiry, because then it just doesn't hold the glue very well. So in this case, I got hair from the brush, so I want to make sure to pull that off before I glue this down, otherwise that'll leave a little indentation. Kind of hard to pull it up. I actually have some tweezers. I should use those. I bought these just recently with the intention of doing more of that microscope streaming, where I'm looking at like grains of sand and things under the microscope, and thought it'd be fun to be able to pick up individual grains. So I got these really fine tweezers, which will work perfectly for grabbing this hair. Now I need to go over this a little bit more because I waited too long while I was doing that. Just a quick do-over. Should be good. And I might still do that stream. Again, I've mentioned this before, I don't really stream for my audience. I don't necessarily take requests like, oh, what would my viewers like to see? No, that sounds really selfish, but I kind of just stream what I enjoy doing, and if people like it, then they'll watch, and if they don't, they'll be like, this is dumb and boring. Why am I wasting my life away watching this guy? And I'm okay with that. Everybody has their own tastes for what's interesting to them. I try to do things that are relaxing to watch. Nothing too dramatic or loud. Alright, this is ready to put under weight. You can see this paste sheet has been used many times, but as long as it's still whatever, it doesn't have it. Basically, if it hasn't stuck to another paste sheet once they're dried and I stack them together, if it sticks to another one and I rip them apart, then I have to throw it away. Otherwise, I can use them almost indefinitely. This is probably one of my older ones. I just watched another video of some semi-big streamer, I think. I don't know how many followers he has, maybe a couple 100,000 on YouTube or something. I don't know how many. I just watched some of his, I've seen some of his posted videos, which aren't streams, so I don't know what his streams are like, but anyway, I don't even know his name because he just pops up in my feed. I don't even think I follow him, but he made a video on you're not gonna make full-time income from streaming on Twitch. It's just a reality check. I think a lot of people need to hear that if they're considering streaming. Even me, when I first started streaming, I didn't actually think I would make any money, but you know, there's that hope in the back of your mind, like, hey, I've seen people use this as a career, and wouldn't that be fun? But you have to be realistic with yourself. And it's good to hear the tough love messages of that kind of guy. The first time I heard that was like 3 years ago. PewDiePie actually made a video like that, just kind of a reality check video saying like, not everybody can be like me and, you know, making millions of dollars. And in fact, vast majority don't make any money. I don't make any money from streaming, in case anybody's curious. Never have. I actually spend money on streaming because it's just my hobby, and I don't seek donations or sponsors or anything like that. But I'm not against that either. Like, I don't think anybody should be thought of as a second-class citizen because they're making money. If anything, that's great, you know. Why would you look down on somebody that's doing that? I think the problem some people have is they feel like if you're doing it for money, you're not really being yourself. You're transforming into somebody else to please your audience, kind of a thing, or selling products that you don't really believe in, but you need the money, so you know, whatever, shill, I guess. But you know, if you're gonna make a career out of it, you have to make those kind of compromises, and I'm not willing to do that unless I want it to be fun. And I think if I was stressed over trying to make money, it would not be fun anymore. So I agree with those kind of videos that talk about just the probability. Like most jobs, most career paths, you put in the work, you learn the necessary skills or technology, and you will make money. Like you'll get a job eventually in your field if you stick at it. Might not be the best position or paying wage at the beginning, but you'll build up, you know. Like say you learn web design, you can get a job as a web designer. No real problem there. Or you want to work at a restaurant, you go learn how to do that and you're going to get a job. Just plain and simple. Guaranteed job at the end. You'll make enough money to live. Might not be luxurious lifestyle, but you'll make it. But streaming, it's like one in, I don't know what the numbers, but it's probably 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000 maybe that have a full-time income. So you really shouldn't, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, honestly, as a career path, unless you have a really strong passion and great creativity and charisma. And I would hate to see someone's hopes dashed. But I don't think it's good to just say, yeah, follow your dreams, it'll come true. I probably won't in streaming. You gotta be careful. Try it out. It's a fun hobby, and if something comes of it, great, but just don't put your entire hopes and dreams into that one thing. I think a lot of young kids look at streamers and look at them and see them kind of in the same way as celebrities, like, oh, it's a famous person because they're streaming, but nope, they're just regular people. Just very few of them are genuine celebrities. Most of them don't make any money. Very little money. At least from their streaming careers. For most people, it's a hobby, a fun hobby. That's what it is for me, and I don't intend to change that. aside from distributing the pressure, the other reason to put that layer of felt between these is so that they don't stick together, because the glue does absorb into the paper and come through the other side a little bit. So you put two of those things drying together and they could stick together. But primarily the reason I put the felt in between is to distribute the pressure, just in case, it's my granite slabs aren't perfectly flat, or they're little irregularities. It compresses that felt to kind of fill in all the slight irregularities. But if anybody watches these replays or is watching now or whatever, and you're interested in learning what I'm doing, don't feel afraid to ask questions, either while I'm streaming or in the comments of the replays on Odysee or YouTube. I'm very happy to answer questions if I know the answers. If I don't know, I'll just say so, or I'll give my opinion. I'm not an expert bookbinder by any means, but I didn't take any formal apprenticeship or training. I just taught myself using various YouTube videos and books and things like that. And then after I learned from other people, I started doing it, and then I realized, that doesn't work very well, so I'll figure out my own way to do it. So a lot of my techniques have adapted to just experiments that I've tried. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to share that knowledge. I'm not a competitive guy. At one time I thought maybe I could make money selling books, but turns out it's not very easy to sell handmade things at a profit. So I gave that up. I used to think a little bit more competitively, like keep my secrets to myself, but not anymore. So, oops, I didn't lay that down very well. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'll answer best as I can. And if anybody's interested in like more curated, edited down videos with step-by-step instructions and supply lists and all that kind of stuff, I would consider producing those videos, editing them, and uploading them to Odysee and or YouTube if there's enough interest. But I may end up doing that eventually anyway, even if no one expresses interest. But it might motivate me a little bit more if I see that there's a bunch of people looking for that. There's already quite a few videos out on YouTube, how-tos for bookbinding, so I don't have a huge motivation to add mine to the list, but I think I have some tricks that maybe other people don't use that might be helpful. Been doing it for a while. Plus, it can't hurt to have more than one voice, even if you're saying the same thing. Sometimes people resonate or connect with the personality of one content creator more than another, so even if you're all kind of doing the same thing, it's good to have variety. A lot of the I guess there's a mix, but one of the first YouTube content creators regarding bookbinding I found was a girl, and another one was an older man. And the girl was kind of more fun and playful with her videos. The older guy was really formal, but very informative and detailed in his explanations. So you can have different approaches and styles. I'd probably be a little bit more of the formal type, but try to make it a little bit fun, I guess. But yeah, the girl that I watched was more crafty oriented, not necessarily artisan type techniques, more just use household stuff to make books kind of a thing in some cases. So it was a good start learning the way that she did things, and then I pulled together quite a few videos, so it's hard to remember who I learned what from and then how I changed it, but I can remember some of that stuff. Having much luck with my laydowns here. Okay, that's better. Almost had a big wrinkle in there. Can't remember if I used the roller on the other side. I must have. And to get a little bit wrapped up in mechanical processes, and kind of like the people at fast food restaurants. They almost become like robots sometimes. Don't know if you've had that experience, but they have a habitual way of doing things in a certain order and asking certain canned questions, and if you ask something that's not on their playlist, they're not ready for it. They often don't even hear what you say or don't acknowledge it, and they go back to their script kind of a thing. It's kind of funny. I do that occasionally too, get in kind of a mental zone and don't pay attention to what's going on. Try to get these skins of glue off before they start getting really thick on my fingers. It's mostly from when I'm picking up the backside of each of these pages. I get a little bit of glue on my hands and it adds up over time. Running out of places to put these paste sheets. First, I couldn't identify this song. I was like, wait, this is so familiar. What game is this from? Obviously from that little cackling. It's Donkey Kong Country. One of the 3 Super Nintendo games, I assume. I'm actually currently playing one of the newer Donkey Kong Countries on Wii U. I don't have a Switch, but I have a Wii U. And my friend and I hang out usually on Monday nights. We've been going through Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Been pretty fun. Has some annoying control issues, but otherwise it's a really awesome game. Alright, getting down to the last third or so of the glue, so I don't know how many more I can do. Maybe 2 or 3. Looks like I can maybe do one more. Glue's getting pretty low. Might be safer just to end on this one because it's pretty catastrophic if I run out of glue in the middle of needing it, so I really need enough for 2 full sheets, and it's down to the last bit there, so that's probably a good idea not to try to do another one. Plus I need to mix more methylcellulose paste, because I do think that misty stuff could potentially be mold. I've never confirmed that. I don't have a way to know that. It could just be the chemical separating out, but I've always thought it could be mold, and just assuming that is possible. I usually just throw it out once I see that stuff start forming in there. It's usually crystal clear, so if you see that cloudy stuff in there, that's what concerns me, that could be mold. So I think I'll end there, and I might just end up throwing this little bit of glue out and mixing a new batch, just so I can properly wash out these containers to make sure they don't have any leftover mold in them or something. It's not like a harmful mold or anything. I don't even know if it is mold, but it's super minimal, and it's probably fine, but I like to err on the side of caution, I guess. It's good to change out this cellophane or saran wrap as well, in case there's some spore on there, and that could get in the new batch. So I'll just cover these up for tonight and mix a new batch tomorrow or whenever. I can't ever promise that I'm going to stream daily. I never know. I've been enjoying doing it thus far pretty much every day, but I'm working tomorrow. It might be a hard day, and then I wouldn't have energy at the end of the day to do this, but so we'll see. But if I do, I'll probably continue where I left off, mix a new batch of glue, and glue the rest of those boards with the paper on either side. And the ones from yesterday should be ready by tomorrow or the next day, so I can start cutting those down and sizing them for the covers, and just play it by ear, see how it goes. I might end up, one of these days I might throw in a variety stream too, do something completely different from my other list of content types, or even something brand new. Never really know. Just kind of do my hobbies and things that interest me, and it's fun to just turn the camera on and share it with somebody out there on the internet. So thanks for joining me. Hope you all have a good rest of your week and weekend, and I'll catch you next time. Not sure when it'll be, but should be soon. All right.